leads into excuse me, the game's starting. Yeah. Get out of the system. All right, we're good. We're doing it. I think this is worth a tweet. DreamHack. Oh my god, DreamHack oh my god, did DreamHack change their damn logo on their Twitter? Oh my god, why are people doing this? Why are companies doing this? Ay. Alright, whatever. Do last chance. Masters. Okay. Branding, guys. Last chance. Care. Asia. Qualifying match. Innovation. PvP. All right, now the Twitterverse knows about it. Amazing gaming. In the bottom left of Pillars of Gold, we have the Red Terran Innovation, Kaizi Gaming. In the top right, as the blue Protoss, we have Stance. Alright, so Stats look pretty good in PvT. I think he took out Beyond again in this tournament, but he also took him out in the closed qualifier tournament. And then I think he also took him out in one of the TSL qualifiers. Poor Beyond. But, you know, facing one guy over and over and beating him isn't really indicative of your overall performance in the matchup. Maybe it just means that he's very good against Beyond. I do think he's still a very solid player that can be very difficult to defeat in general for anyone. What is their recent score? Let's go find the data. Fika Fleet Stats. Doesn't have his clan tag today. I haven't played in a while, actually. Oh, no, wait, no. 2020 is not over yet. Duh. They played in the Super Tournament. Of course they did. Very, very recently. As in, like, yesterday. You know, actually, I think that's the one match I didn't get to watch. I watched the TVZ that happened, and then something else happened, and then, well, I didn't quite finish the VOD. Went and streamed. I did the podcast, all that good stuff, so I missed out, and now I've spoiled myself. Damn it. And now I'm going to spoil all of you. So, here's your official spoiler warning for the GSL Super Tournament. Stats versus Innovation. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stats did win. And Stats has been winning against Innovation. I think his PvT is looking really good. Innovation should be scared, but he does have the lower bracket to fall into. Should he lose here in this best of 5, already some Adepts getting some decent damage done. Reaper goes down, Marine goes down. SCVs will also fall soon. You'd think with a bunker you'd be safe, but apparently not. More Marines come forward, and that would be the death of both Adepts, I would say. Oh, nope, barely one gets away. And that was very annoying. Very annoying. Stats has a stupidly good win record against Innovation, by the way. Like, he's been dominating him recently. Overall, in the past how many years they've been playing Starcraft 2, Innovation technically has more victories, but of the past year, Innovation has been really struggling against this particular Protoss player. Struggles. Doesn't bode well. We'll see what happened. We'll see. We'll see. Innovation gonna go for a Widowmine drop to the main. 3 of them, in fact. Stats is not gonna be able to see this. In fact, I am kind of questioning Stats' placement. I think he was looking for it, went, okay, it's around that time, it's not coming, let's go to the main. Oh, Not going to the main. Okay, well, some damage might be done. Not a whole lot, though. I mean, how much can really be done if you can just micro your probes away? Usually at max, 3 probes will fall. Usually. In this case, 2. Good micro from stats. Wood of Mines get taken out. Blink was done. Innovation might have been better off. Oh, I don't know. Maybe putting all the Wood of Mines on the main base and then skedaddling with the medevac to at least keep that alive. Maybe that would have been better, but it's so hard. Like, you can't blame the Terran for doing that and then losing it as well. Stats with an excellent defense just micros the probes away. His stalkers have blink, so they chase the medevac down, and, well, now he gets away with a 3rd CC. Sorry, 3rd Nexus. It's not called a CC for Protoss, is it? Or his Innovation does not have a 3rd command center. Looks like he might be going for a 2-base all-in. Seems to be coming back into fashion. Oh, you know what? Maybe I did finish it. Didn't he, like... Yeah, you know what? I think I did. I think I did. Didn't he, like, pull SCVs into, like, the natural of Death Aura? Yeah. You know what? I think I did finish Stats for Innovation. Didn't make me too happy as an Innovation fan, but you can't not be a fan of Stats. He's such a lovable guy. Perhaps as a playstyle, he might be a bit boring. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna trust you guys not to repeat it. But, boring does not mean bad at all. In fact, it can mean quite good and quite frustrating to play against, in fact. Stats goes for a 3rd Nexus, Blink, very little defense. You don't need that much versus Wood of Mines, though. Then goes for a bit of a overly aggressive counter. Actually finds success with it, though. Gets a few SCVs, only loses 1 stalker for it. Distracts Innovation. Of course, is forced to recall, so that's less energy, but I think he's fine. He's chrono boosting. He's still got enough for a shield battery overcharge. He's got 3 Immortals working on that Colossus. Good God. All you need to do is supplement with a couple of warp-ins. I think that's the only thing that's really concerning me right now is just how barren this army looks. Scan reveals what looks to be vulnerable Immortals. A couple of sentries, though, are going to be able to buy that time, and that's why Stats is so damn good. Innovation's like, well, I'll just go to the main base. No, you won't. No, you won't. He will grab at least try to grab a couple of stalkers, and actually he will bully his way into that main base. Wood of Mines on the high ground, covering the ramp. Interference Mage is looking for that Colossus, so it can't really help out very much. Wood of Mines don't get the most amazing shots, but they do well enough. Colossus actually doesn't even need to be Interference Mage. He gets dragged into bio that it actually cannot handle, and Innovation might have found more success than I thought, than Stats thought, by dropping into that main base. He's going to grab the Robo on the front lines. Sentry's out of juice, also out of Guardian Shield. Wood of Mine is going to pop off on the Zealots. Not too well, but maybe well enough. And again, auto turrets, so Interference Matrix available. Taking 2 of the 3 Immortals out of the equation. The 3rd one gets popped. It's going to die. Other 2 are going to fall as well in Stats. Well, you played a perfect game up until about 7 minutes, 45 seconds. Hot diggity damn. GG. Well played by Innovation. I really thought he was going to turn around and be like, Upkiss can't do anything, but he forced the issue in that main. Nicely done. We're in lobby, so I think I'm safe to go grab some water. Okay, yeah, safe. All right, on to Oxide. In the top right as the Red Terran, he is Innovation. In the bottom left, down 1, he is the Blue Protoss. Afrika Freaks stats. Both these guys, pretty big Brood War players. Innovation on the name Bogus. Stats, same name, but nickname was Chintoss back in the day. He was the second Chintoss. They've been playing each other since around 2012. But Innovation was one of the first Brood War players to really adapt well into Starcraft 2 and do very well in Starcraft 2. Sulky was right there with them, which is why Innovation versus Sulky is a best of 7, finals that unfortunately will never truly be forgotten. Innovation gets a 3-0 lead, proceeds to be Ling Baneling Roach, that's what it is. Ling Baneling Roach, because Rao doesn't exist back then. Ling Baneling Roach all in 4 games in a row and loses every time. Amazing stuff. And they've both been around for a very long time. Both friends, I believe, or friendly to each other from the Brood War days. But Stats is really accelerated. He seems to be back in just like that perfect Protoss form, or close to it. Obviously lost last game, but sometimes Stats won't look quite as good defensively, and he'll start to falter, and he'll be like, I don't know if Stats is playing really well. And then every time I start to question this guy is when he starts to bring it back and just start looking unbreakable. And I guess that's what's going to happen here, is that I'm going to question Stats and be like, well, I don't know, there's a weakness there, and then he's going to clobber Innovation. Maybe that'll happen again. But Innovation really was quite tricky. I mean, pushing the issue on that high ground, just, I would say most Terrans don't think about doing it. Stats thought he was pretty well protected, and maybe he should have been. I think what also could have happened is that Stats probably was clicking furiously on the high ground to bring the rest of his army up, right? The Colossus, being as bright as they are, probably was like, well, I can get there by going up this way, so yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm doubting he thought he meant for the Colossus to actually go into the bio. And with that Colossus on the high ground, maybe he still loses the Robo, because that's just very snipeable, but I don't think he loses the game. Well, that game's over and done with, and Oxide's a pretty different map, not nearly as abusable for that particular edge. That particular drop. Twilight Council's on the way for Stats. Seemed like he got away with a lot of things last game. He really did have a pretty damn good setup. But Innovation was able to push through. This time around, the Adepts aren't going to bully the Marines and SCVs as much. They don't get the Marine yet. They don't get the Reaper yet. They don't get anything. Although both of them do survive at the very least. Innovation gets to do his Widowmine drop. Hellion drop, actually. He's got 2 Hellions. So a bit of a Hellion Reaper, well, I would say multi-pronged, but to say like, you know, 1 Reaper is not really multi-pronged. Looks like the Hellion and the Reaper both went out to looking for the Adepts, and the Hellion took more damage, but it is being repaired. So yeah, Hellion drop. The Reaper might try to distract, or rather, no, Marine drop. Okay, here we go. Marine drop, and the Hellion trying to get into the natural. Reaper goes into the main. Something should happen, right? You would really hope somewhere they've got to give. Oh, nope, not going to do the Marine thing. It's just going to go for the Hellion drop. Hellion and Reaper going straight to that main base. Oxide does have a little bit of a dark side of the map, if you're not careful. Pylon on the very far left looking for Widowmine drops, looking for any type of drop, right? But then the Stalkers are going to have to cover the right side. Here comes the medevac now. 2 Stalkers won't scare the medevac away. Oh, that sucks. They won't stop the medevac from unloading, but when you miss unload, and you unload 1 Hellion on the low ground, it's a bit awkward there. Medevac's going to try and fake the main base out. Stalkers are still there, and the natural is a little undefended, and not as much as Innovation was hoping for. Need 3 Hellions to 1 shot, and with 1 Hellion already being taken down by the Adepts and the Stalkers, it was an easy cleanup from there. And with that little bit of harassment, not really doing a whole lot, so that 3rd Nexus is completely safe. It's going to finish, going to be able to produce probes. A similar start to last game. Innovation follows us up with a Raven build once again, going into just a single tank for defense, it looks like. We're swapping off into Stim. Couple of Stalkers try and do something. I guess Innovation, taking that last game into consideration, how aggressive Stats was with the Stalkers. They didn't get a whole lot done, but if they're willing to put your Stalkers, their Stalkers, in your main base once, they might be willing to do it again. Six has a very proper setup against that. A wall covering the tank. And the rest of his bio in the main. Observer is freaking out. I heard it like unsiege and siege twice. All right. Really just looking for an opportunity, looking for the army to move away, and finally it does. But I don't really know if Stats wants to push the issue. He is going to push the issue, but Innovation had army. He's like, oh shit. Innovation doing a great job corralling these Stalkers already on the low grounds. Observer scanned, killed. Stalkers without blink will die. Gonna try and grab a medevac before they leave, and they do grab it. I mean, one medevac down, one Stalker down. Actually a fair trade, right? Bit better for the Stalker, in fact. Less gas there. Looks like some Raven harassment went down, although I'm not sure how much it got killed. 3 apparently, 3 probes. Does mean no auto turrets, no interference matrix on the front line, though. Innovation bringing his tank along. Just a little bit of an anchor to this push. The Raven's also no longer there to detect these observers, which would have been nice too. Double medevac drop into the main base, something that Stats is really not prepared for. Uh-oh. Oh, there's like nothing here. Colossus pops out, and that'll help with a couple of reinforcements, but then the third base will be under attack, and this is a little bit sketchy. Stats wasn't prepared. He's definitely going to take some losses. Actually, the Colossus is targeted down, and in fact is not going to die. Shield battery hype. Rocks are broken down by the rest of the army, though, providing a concave, providing an arc that Stats might not be able to handle. Interference matrix coming in. No auto turret actually goes down. Either way, at least it was some type of distraction. And that is a good concave. Wouldn't mind's actually reaching a little bit, too, to kill a couple of Stalkers. All the Zealots have disappeared. The Natural looking a bit open there. Stats is desperately clamoring to actually find a defense. Maybe he has found it, but I think it's about to be lost. No, he's actually continuing to move in. 2 Immortals, 3 Immortals, in fact, are feeling very overly confident against the Marauder count of his opponent. The Colossus goes down. The Immortals go down. The Stalkers might fall afterwards. No, not quite. Zealots from the backside take care of the tank, and the medevacs are going to have to run away with whatever Marauders are left over. That was very, very close indeed. Damn. I thought Stats was being a little too aggressive just because he was away from his shield batteries, right? I thought he was like, I don't know about this one. But 3 Immortals do a fantastic job against that mostly Marauder army. The Marauders do fantastic against the Colossus with a concave right, but then they are a little weak to those Zealots, and they are definitely weak to Immortals when they're not target firing them. Alright, so when they target fire them, yeah, the Immortals fall down. But 3 Immortals, I guess, did their job well enough that even with that concave, even with the healing of multiple medevacs, it was not quite enough for Innovation to break Stats' defense. And Stats holds by also not losing his economy. Now, that means that Innovation down 12 workers is probably okay, but isn't quite fully saturated. He's finishing up his 1-1 at the same time Stats is. I think it's a little bit nerve-wracking for Terran to be up against Colossus when they're on the defensive. Innovation actually going to try and move out here, but it's going to work against him. Widowmine's burrowing. Liberators come out. Widowmine's not going to get the connections on the Zealots. He's going to bring them forward, though. Good control so far from Innovation, who's also chasing the Colossus with the Liberators, it looks like. It's kind of funny. They don't do a lot of damage, but maybe just enough. Widowmine's this time are going to burrow, and how many Zealots are going to get popped off because of it? Liberators also sieging up. This is a very scary army when it's correctly controlled. 6 Widowmines with 4 of them still ready to pop off or being just microed well enough. I mean, they're not dying. They're being pushed forward. Marauder count still very, very high. Stats trying his best to also micro as well. Splitting his Zealots, running away when he can. War Prism now here to try and ferry some of these units back into the shield batteries if he needs to. Liberators do fall down. Good target fire there from Stats. Take care of the, I think the scariest thing about that push was the Liberators sieging up on this choke in particular. But those Widow Mines are also getting scarily close to popping off. Liberators here again. He's just producing Liberators, which means his medevac count's a little bit low. His healing is a little bit low, and he has nothing to take care of the Zealots anymore. The Widow Mines have finally died. Stats starting to push through. The Liberators fall as well. Concave is trying to be gotten by Innovation, but I think it's a little bit too late, and he is going to tap out. GG. He's also losing a couple of SCVs, it looks like, to maybe a single Zealot or something. But he was really close to breaking Stats. So close. 2 times, I would say, he was close to breaking Stats. But Stats has masterful control of these armies. There's some talk about the map size. That's why I made sure to write them down. Thought it was a fair point. The map makers, like 2 seasons ago, when everyone was like, these maps are too large, these maps are too small. They were Little Red Riding Hooding it, you know? I was like, maybe they have a point. So I wrote them down. And the perception of these maps is pretty off overall, I would say. Because we see a map where we see our army across the map and we don't naturally take into account all the things on the map, like these speed up zones or the curves of a map or whatever, right? Something a little bit interesting happening. Bottom left of Jagannath, that's Innovation, top rated is Stats. Stats actually delaying a probe. So he's gonna get a faster gateway, faster pylon, faster gateway. I don't know how nefarious is going to be, but it is faster. So anyways, yeah, Jagannatha is seen as a very large map, and everyone jokes that it's Zerganatha. There's no doubt a high win percentage for Zerg. That's a fact, but it's really just in our vocabulary that's incorrect. I mean, a map can be large and yet have a short rush distance at the same time. Romanicide is kind of like that. Romanicide and Jagannatha have the same rush distance, which is an SCV from natural to natural. Or any worker from natural to natural. But where you think Romanicide is being fairly large because of left or right, right? We think of Jagannatha as being large, people are just thinking of, I think, their pushes, their rally pushes across the map. But it's actually not that large. I think it's just hard for, like, armies that require sieging to actually get to where they want to go on this map, right? Because very often StarCraft 2 is not about getting from your natural to your opponent's natural. It's so much more about third bases, in fact, in Legacy of the Void, or even fourth bases, right? Anywho. All just a cover until Stats food on a Stargate, so faster pylon, faster gateway, faster cybernetics core, faster Stargates. Funny how those things work out. On one base, if Innovation was scouting, he'd know something was up just with the gateway timing. Seen the cybernetics core, obviously lacking second pylon. Shield battery, I mean, so many things would have told him that something was up. But Innovation is choosing probably the worst game. Oh no. Yep, the worst game to go for no SCV scout and no Reaper. This is gonna get awkward. So best case scenario for Innovation, since he at least got a bit faster reactor, he didn't build 2 units, only built 1, right? So his reactor's pretty fast, is that his Marines are on the high grounds. Already not happening that way, though. Needs to be a bit careful. It is only a single adept, so I think, I mean, that the real worry is that the Marines are so far distracted and out of position that the Oracle gets, like, maximum damage, but it's not an Oracle, it's a Void Ray being chronoed out here. Okay, alright, calm down. What? No. No. What? Why? Void Rays don't really kill... I mean, Oracles don't kill as fast as they used to, but Void Rays don't kill SCVs very much faster. And it's gonna get bopped by Widow Mine. This is... I mean, Stats has been, you know, fairly aggressive with his depths in previous games, but it looks like Innovation was already a bit paranoid of something like this with the earlier Adept harassment, so his Widowmine was in perfect positioning. With the Void Ray now weak, it's definitely not going to stand up against the number of Marines Innovation has, even without it being weak. Even if it had full health, I still don't think the Void Ray is a very tempting option, but Stats, I trust you, man. Nope, I no longer trust you. Void Ray goes down. Whoops. Second Void Ray on the way just seems like it's gonna do far less. I don't know about this one, guys. I don't know. I feel like, the only thing that's really not going swimmingly for Innovation is the fact that he did not get a bunker, which would have helped against these Adepts, but even with a little bit of distraction in the natural, a little bit of non-mining happening, it's, that's, the Void Ray is still kind of expensive. I mean, not as much as it used to be. Some SCVs are finally going to fall. 2 of them. Widowmine falls. Okay, well, it's, you know, okay. All right. I'll, like, golf clap for that Void Ray. Not much more than that, though. Adept find a mule. 2 mules. Okay, all right. Starting to make me respect this opener a bit more. Get an SCV as well. 1 Adept does fall, but that does take away the one-shot potential, I guess. It could still be a big distraction. 2 Widowmines this time around. Stats very on point to witnessing that. 2 Phoenix. Good pick up there with the Widowmines. Oh, he's going to go for the drop. Bit dangerous. They fly over the Adepts as well, and the Phoenixes are hot on the Medevac's tail. And it's now 3 Phoenix as well, so... Yep, easy pickup. Or, what? Yeah, there you go. Easy pickup. And destruction of the Widowmines. Marines go forth to try and bully the Adepts away. Stats is already on top of shading them back home. I mean, overall, it hasn't been enough. I don't think so. Innovation's down only 5 workers. He did lose 2 mules though. I mean the build's really odd now, right? Because you're defending something that's very odd. So Widowmines have once again fallen. Not enough Marines in the defensive. Medevac's going to fall as well to the Phoenix, and Innovation's trying to move across the map. There's no shield battery though. I don't think Stats was expecting this, and if he was, he's definitely not prepared for it. Phoenixes are now flying back home, but is it too late? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. 1 Widowmine falls, but this Marine power, even without stim, and the Viking landing as well, is going to tear through these probes. An Immortal popping out would be enough with a Phoenix. Yeah, definitely with a Phoenix. The Phoenix alone might be enough, although 1 is going to be targeted down. Probes are going to fall. Good control over the defense, I think, as best as you really could. It would have been so much better with a shield battery, and the Phoenix... it would have been so much better if the Phoenix had instantly realized what was going on and turned around. But then they wouldn't have gotten the damage they would have done on this side of the map, so it's a bit of, you know, tit for tat, I guess. Very, very odd opener. Very unique start to a PvT, but at the end of the day, Innovation is up workers, or even with workers. Stats has a, in context to the rest of the Nexus in this series, fairly late Nexus, and Innovation does already have Stamina, is working on combat shields, although his production is not really that great. He's only just now adding a 2nd barracks. So, it looks like he got an armory. Like, he's really changed up his opener to deal with this, but ooh, the armory not able to help these Widowmines. Good pickups there from Stats. He had so many Widowmines, actually. Damn. Could have done a lot, but Stats a little too on point. A little too on point. Even bringing an Observer across the map, working on those robotics base, trying to get to those Colossus. Neither one of these players starting their upgrades quite yet. Okay, there's a +1. Innovation finally gets his upgrade going. Stats only just slapping down his forge, still dealing with these Widowmines. I mean, how many Widowmines has Innovation made? I'm gonna check in a second, if I can. Viking goes down as well. He's made 14! Holy shit, 14 of them! And it feels like only 4 of them have done damage. Well, he's made more than that. He's just lost a 15th one, so he's made 18. He's going on 20. I can do math. That's a lot of Widowmines to lose. I mean, not the most expensive thing, but when you consider how much Stats has lost, damn. Innovation would have probably been better off not building Widowmines. It seemed like a fantastic choice, and a lot of those Widowmines were seconds away from burrowing to be great. The medevac drop, if it had gone across the map, would have been great, but it didn't find its way over there, and that's a huge loss of resources for Innovation. Stats, I guess, just in a bit of a lull as he starts up his Nexus, right, as he gets his technology started up. Doesn't look that impressive in the army supply right now. But when you consider that and what stats we'll have in just 32nd series, already saturated his 3rd Nexus. Obviously far ahead of innovation, but already saturating that is already reaping the benefits. Sand Thermal Lance charge, 1-1, 2 Colossus, working on his 3rd one. Yeah. I mean, innovation's not so far behind. He has kept his work account at the very least very solid, despite losing some workers here and there. But I think stats is about to perhaps spike a little harder in that power, right? There's his 3rd Colossus. No, actually going for 2. And then a Warp Prism. Usually you do see 3. He's also adding on Templar Archives. We'll see if he sticks with 2. Scan goes down somewhere. 3rd base. Seeing the saturation, but I think also assuming the army could be there. Doesn't find the army type. Sees the Templar Archives at the very least. It wouldn't be that much of a reach if you just defaulted to stats going for Colossus. I mean, that just wouldn't be, you know, it's a bit. It's expected. Thank you, Almheim, for the Prime sub, as well as Old Abysmiliard for the 200 bits. What did you went up so early? Colossus finding an army that was not prepared to fight. Wouldn't mind Zoo burrow, but not fast enough. They are lifted. They have to re-burrow, something that innovation cannot do, while also microing away from the charge lots, and this attack is a complete failure. Stats totally on top of it. Totally, absolutely, 100% on top of it. Innovation not gonna tap out right now, but I wouldn't blame him. Okay, yeah, he is. GG. GG. Yes, that's, I mean... You know, stats did the stats thing. Poor innovation. You got that one game, and he's like, can I do it? And stats is like, no. No, you can't. I mean Goldilocks? I did mean Goldilocks, yeah. Little Red Riding Hood was the wolf story. Whatever. Y'all know what I meant. So you want to try out the traversal time for the maps? Yeah, it's on Wikipedia. What do you think I've done? Gone into a custom game and timed out the distance? I did have to do that once, actually. There was one season where Wikipedia didn't update the rush distances of like 5 out of 7 maps. Like the old maps had the rush distance, but not the new ones. So I did go in there for like, I think it was like for Montreal. I went into customs and timed them out myself, but thankfully nowadays it's very dependable to have Wikipedia have the rush distance. Anywho, innovation in the top left, down 1 in his last life in the upper bracket, anyways. Down the lower bracket, I think he'd already been in another qualifying match, I think. So he's still very close to qualifying. In the bottom right, he is stats, and he is going for a forward gateway. I gotta say still, like, last game did not feel like a great opener at the very beginning. I don't think I like that opener. I feel like the reason it worked was because stats. Okay, so if you're not stats, I don't know if you're not top 50 Korea, right? Like, don't do it. All right, I'm not sure how well that's gonna work amongst the masters and the diamonds. Maybe beautifully, I don't know, but those leagues can be weird in their own right. But anyways, and because innovation didn't go for a bunker is, I think, the reason it did any damage really whatsoever. The adepts were more problematic, I felt, in the Void Ray. And then because innovation tried playing to the build, and I don't think his initial plan was to go into mass Widow Mines. It is a build. It's one we've seen before, where the Terran, with no prompting, adds on an armory, adds on a reactor, Widow Mines. But I feel like that was actually Innovation responding to the opener. And if he had actually just played a normal game, he doesn't lose 16 Widow Mines, with only 4 of them really doing any damage, and not that much damage either. And he has a much bigger army to punish. But, you know, it is what it is. He did go for it. By the time he was able to try and do anything against Stats, Stats was totally prepared, both in his actual unit composition and unit count, as well as in positioning. So that game was just odd. We don't really expect to have to worry about odd games versus Stats. So I'm sure that threw Innovation off a little bit. And Stats is once again going for a Stargate opener, just making sure to get the wall up nice and quick on Death Aura, since it is 2 buildings plus a unit. It's very easy to stop any Hellion openers from doing damage. It's going to be Phoenix, just right into Phoenix. Innovation is going for a 2-1-1, and not even like the TVP version of a 2-1-1, which is the Barracks Factory Barracks into Starport. He's actually going for a 2-1-1, Barracks Factory Starport. This should be a big surprise to Stats, who should not be able to scout this. Clearly they're wrong. There we go. So he's seen just a Barracks. The lacking factory unit, like where's your Widow Mine, where's your Cyclone, could be a little weird if you're thinking about it, but most of the time those Widow Mines are waiting in the main base anyways, waiting to get soaked up into the medevac, you know? So it's really not that weird for Stats not to see any factory unit. What he could be wary of is the amount of Marines. I actually thought Innovation was going to hide his Marines. Show the reactor Marines, hide the 1 Marine at a time over here, but I don't know if Stats is reading into that enough. Reaper doing a little bit of a harassment distraction. It's gonna get a probe. Didn't get the second one though. Adepts decide that enough is enough. They've got the scouting that they can. They're gonna go home. In fact, it looks like he did go into the main base. So that's a bit of an oopsie from Innovation. Showed his 2-on-1 just before it was really ready to go. And now Stats will, I think, have a more appropriate setup against it. I mean, the Phoenix want to track the medevacs, yes, but they have to be very careful to track the medevacs and not the Marines with stim underneath them. Phoenix can't cover that. And then Stats needs to have his army there if it actually does end up dropping. If it ends up getting on his side of the map, he needs to have all of his army combined to deal with it. It's a bit spiky, you know? Initially, 16 Marines with stim do seem scary. Absolutely. But then very shortly afterwards, you get enough warpins. You combine your forces together. It's not as scary. Combat shields and +1 is on the way. A little bit of supply block. What? Innovation? No. Big drop into the main base. Stats was looking for the drop of this Phoenix, but didn't find it. Recall is used as well as an overcharge, but the overcharge shield battery is the first thing he targeted down. Now targeting down the Phoenix. He's going to be able to lift up and try and get away, but not going to work. It looks like... No, it is not. Another Phoenix popped out. He tried to escape with the very weak medevac as well. That was not exactly what Innovation was looking for. I think he wanted to survive with at least 1 medevac full of units to continue harassing and pulling Stats apart. Instead, he loses everything there, which means that Stats can now entirely focus on the attack to the left side. It does grab a shield battery. It's looking for a Phoenix, but Innovation is not going to find any success with round number 2 of the attack. I mean, it very much so was an army that was supposed to find a wide open third base. No medevacs, no marauders. It was just like, I hope he wasn't paying attention. Stats was quick enough, and he replaces the shield battery as well. Not going to feel too overconfident. Didn't replace the shield battery in the main, though. And the Phoenix are once again not in position. It's just, like, arguable. Like, they're in position enough, right? Widow Mine is going to be lifted. Again, not getting any luck with those Widow Mine shots. Stats is always there at the last possible millisecond to pick those things up. The medevac will fall. Innovation's grabbing a third on location, so the bases aren't really that different. Economy is actually quite nice for the Terran, I would say, with the orbital already starting. But he's not finding any damage to the army of Stats. So Innovation's army really needs to get bulkier, needs to get buff, needs to get some marauders in there to really combat the growing army of Stats. If he's just on Marines, these Colossus will rip and tear. Charge is also on the way since he has Phoenix to cover the drops and the map presence. Doesn't really need Blink too fast. Innovation is going to go into a pretty quick second starport. I mean, with his economy, he can certainly afford to do so. As I was saying, it's actually a pretty nice one. Even ahead in workers right now. But stats is all the investments he made a minute ago starting to pay off. Thermal Lance, charge +1. A lot of gateways. He will have a very fearsome army. The Phoenix just enough to cover the air as well. So imagine Colossus and like 20 charge lots, and then even just 6 or 7 Phoenix. That's scary. Innovation playing with a lot of Vikings would love to get a couple of pot shots off on the Phoenix before the engagement actually happens, or find the Colossus before the Phoenix responds. I mean, those are the two things you really are hoping to get, but that's more so on your opponent making a mistake. When it comes to just a direct fight or a defensive fight, as Stats moves out into Innovation side of the map, the Vikings start to struggle. They kind of have an identity crisis as to what they want to do. That they want to focus the Phoenix, tango with that, or they want to try and focus the Colossus and thus die to the Phoenix. I think it depends on how many Vikings you have. Currently at 6. A couple of shots already going off on the Phoenix is quite nice. Kills 1, gets another one very, very injured, and 8 Vikings now to 7 Phoenix. Innovation seems like he is going to be able to hold no problem. Stats respects that. Pulls away. Grabs a couple of Archons. Grabs +1 armor as well. Now, Innovation, he's going to have +1 armor in like 30 seconds here. He's also about to have Ghosts. So Stats was looking for another direct attack. I think you have to be very, very cautious. And I'm glad to see that it looks like he is just going to posture. So he's going to scare Innovation, be like, oh, my army's right here. What? You don't know. And then actually have a Warp Prism go into the main base, which Innovation doesn't really have a lot of defenses for. He's got a missile turret here, but usually you'd want one like maybe here to really find success. 4th base on location is already halfway done for Innovation. Stats is Nexus is also only halfway done. So again, keeping up, pacing with the expansion of the Protoss is pretty impressive for the Terran. Phoenix can't kill the command center, but they can continue harassing it. Innovation trying to get a good read on where the army is. Has a couple of spotter units. Stats did go all the way back home though. Waiting for more Archons, waiting for more upgrades. Warp Prism still threatening the main base, and Innovation is going to be probably focusing on the attack, and then the Warp Prism comes in. That's exactly what happens. Oh my god, Warp Prism comes in, Terran's GG out. Alright, guys. Not quite that dramatic. Warp Prism actually takes even a little bit of damage, but Innovation is so focused on the attack. I mean, it's really about splitting the attention. It's so difficult, and Stats does fit in a Warp in as well. Good EMP, Viking pops out, Innovation will clean this up eventually, but he's also got to control this army perfectly. Upgrades are currently even, Viking count is insane, the EMPs are fantastic, but the Archons get underneath, the Vikings are close to it. No, not quite, the Vikings doing a fantastic job taking out that air army, and now they can work on the Colossus, about 7 of them left over, some weak, yes, but those Archons very susceptible to more EMPs, need to be careful as well. Warp Prism finally went down. Zealots finally end up falling. Innovation cut down to 55 workers, but still on 4 bases. Still with all of his production at least working. Looks like he lost like a tech lab. That's about it. That was not so bad for Innovation, but it wasn't good enough to win the game, which would have been the real relief there. Now Stats is going to have his 2-2, potentially even finish, or at least +2 weapons might finish for the next engagement. Blink as well to help out against the Vikings. Vikings also not being repaired. I mean, they're still on the front lines. 7 of them against just 2 Colossus is fair enough if they don't get hit by an Archon blast. And there are 5 Archons, but there's also 7 Ghosts, so I think Stats does have a little more reason to be scared right now. But as he continues adding in units, continues with his upgrades, it'll be him with the better army. Innovation finally turning his planetary into a planetary. Getting a sensor tower as well. He's going to fully retreat. Finally adds on the armory. I mean, yeah, you got to take a little bit of a disadvantage in those upgrades when you fit in these many units. But especially because of the Warp Prism harassment. And imagine if that didn't happen. His engagement's a little bit better, a little bit faster. And he probably starts his 2-2 faster as well. Always going to be behind someone who's chrono boosting double forge, though. The engagement is going to happen. Stats is forcing the issue, but on a choke, mass EMPs go down. Vikings tearing down the Colossus as well, and this was just a bit questionable from Stats, I think. To say the least. I mean, I was like, well, if he continues warping in and finishes his upgrades, he will have the better army, and Stats was like, yeah. I agree, and I'm gonna win with it. I don't know if that was that point. His +2 armor wasn't quite finished anyways, so it wasn't really like that much of a timing. His army was impressive, but not when you go through a choke. I mean, we agree, Stats, your army was getting there, but it wasn't there yet. EMPs on top of the Zealots make this a little bit of an easier fight. Still has to micro, though, especially away from this one Disruptor, which is looking to change the tides of battle. Good shot in the Vikings. Kills about 3 of them. Some DTs as well, but they are going to be scanned. Innovation was still double the armor supply of his opponent. Wants to end this game, but Stats is going to hang on. He's clinging on, man. He's got 4 bases worth of economy, and he's got 75 probes as well. That is enough to reinforce. Starts up as 3-3, gets a DT blink. I mean, it should still be Innovation's game. It absolutely should. One thing he could have done wrong is actually be overzealous. And so I like him pulling back and regrouping, starting up his production, starting up more command centers, getting some liberators, which is going to be very difficult for Stats to handle. Stats doing, I guess, all the things that he should be doing. Distraction. Doesn't really want to get rid of all these Zealots, though. He's going to pull those back. Oh, Liberators get taken down. Just enough Stalkers. Vikings a little late to landing are now going to die to the Stalkers. Most of them do anyways. So Stats could potentially go back into Colossus, and that's exactly what he does. Perfectly timed, too. Just as the Disruptor has popped out. So easy chronos there. Innovation's not going to replace those Vikings. He is instead going to go up to 8 and then perhaps 12 Liberators with range. Try and finalize this game. But Stats is at least expanding. He's at least back up to 160 supply, only 20 down from his opponent. Very different than the half supply he was at. And Stats still has a chance to bring this game back even after what was a pretty tremendous throwaway of units. That was a... I was overconfident, to say the least. I don't think it was a throw, because throw usually means that you're like in a really, really good position, like you're in the much better position. That's usually what a throw means, when you throw away that advantage, but I think the game was kind of even. Tilting Stats' way, right? Well, he definitely did throw away an army, that is definitely true. DT getting some harassment in. I think I got like 6 SCVs. Reveals DT blink. Got 8 SCVs actually. Innovation. Oh my goodness, he has never had Marauder slow. That would have helped against those charge lots. Ouch. Marauder slow is finally on the way. It's fast and cheap, so I mean when you recognize it, when it's missing, it's something that says very, very useful. You do want. You don't just go, oh, I didn't get it, I guess I'll skip it. No, no, no. Starts up as 3-3, has +2 ship weapons on the way, and lots of Liberators. If Stats is found in a defensive position, he will lose. Absolutely. So he's got to get on the map. He's got to look for even type of base race, potentially. There's so many Liberators, though, that's going to be difficult to do, as they are brilliant in defending their home turf. And that's exactly what Innovation does. He initially takes the base race. Liberators go home, try and defend all by their lonesome, and it looks like they might be successful in doing so. That was a lot of Stalkers by Stats, but not enough to kill every single Liberator, or barely not enough. Or barely enough, actually. But then the rest of the army still, well, hold on. Stats warps in a bunch of charge lots. It's all offensive, though. I mean, Innovation was depending on those Liberators to hold defensively, and Stats is now depending on Disruptors to hold defensively. They both have pretty good units in this situation. Innovation should have more Liberators on the way to actually hold that high ground. I mean, if Innovation had been a little bit more patient with sieging up those Liberators, had maybe pulled them all the way back here and then sieged them up, it probably would have been enough, right? But Stats, having the upgrades, having, you know, what looked to be like 20 or 30 Stalkers, able to push through, gets the natural command center, but cannot bust into that main base. But Innovation couldn't bust into Stats' main base, so fair is fair. Oh my good god, that is a lot of probes. The probe surround on 3-3 army bio. That's... Are they gonna kill it? Nope, not as important as this, though. Big concave of Terran army on top of the Stalkers and Colossus. Is it going to be enough? It definitely looks that way. Most of the charge lots have been depleted. The Colossus left alone and surrounded. Stats, by the way, won the probe fight against the bio, but lost the actual army fight against the rest of the bio. Stats is gonna lose this game. I mean, I would say kind of deservedly because of the big attack here. It did not go very well at all, but he was very close to bringing it back. Turns out he should have evacuated a bit sooner than he did. GG. Innovation, bringing it to a game 5. What feels to be like the first time in a long time. He has taken losses to stats left, right, and center. And not even that close. A lot of 3-1s. Even a couple of 3-0s, I think, in that report. And now he's maybe finally going to beat stats. There's a game 5 to decide. Why don't pros get concussion shells more often? They get it all the time. What kind of question is that? Him missing it was just a big mistake. It is a very cheap upgrade. It's very fast as well. It is the easiest thing to grab, but perhaps not the easiest thing to remember. Now it's all tied up. In the bottom right for Kaizi Gaming, he is Innovation. On the top left for Afrika Freaks, he is Stats. I think Stats was correct in kind of like initiating the base trade or just being out in the map in general, but they both lost track of each other's armies, so it wasn't exactly a decision. It wasn't a decision that was in the making for 10, 15 seconds, but it's one that both of them decided at the time was the best call. I think Innovation was a little bit happier about it than Stats was, though, because his Liberator count really was quite large. And as I said, if he'd just been a bit more patient, I think it would have absolutely held onto that natural, but sieging up on top of the Stalkers maybe wasn't the best use of them. It didn't go as poorly as I thought for either side. And there were still 6 Liberators shooting away at the Stalkers. I was like, okay, maybe the Stalkers die. But when there was like 8 of them sieging up on the Stalkers, I was like, okay, the Liberators die. Ends up being more of a trade than I thought it would. Regardless, Stats was the one that was supposed to be out in the map, making Innovation make those tough decisions, right? The tougher the decisions, the more likely there's a mistake on the Liberators being sieged correctly or at all. There's more of a mistake on the bio being split or not split, rather, against the Disruptors. Stats' game from the big attack on the ramp that went so poorly for him was kind of just about making Innovation make tough decisions and hoping he made the wrong decision and microed incorrectly. Which Innovation didn't. I suppose you could argue he got close to it, but no, he really didn't. Stats is not going to be looking at that last game from minute, what was, like, how long was that game? 20 minutes, minute 18 and beyond. No, he's gonna be looking at that first attack that just was like a very bad idea. You just, of course, that was the worst thing he did. You look at that and you go, well, maybe I don't do that again. Proxy Stargate this time. So Stats proxy Stargate, goes for Void Race. The next game, he doesn't proxy a Stargate, goes for Phoenix. This game, he goes for a proxy again, but I can't believe he goes for the Void Ray again. I mean, just like that, it seemed like it was supposed to not do well. All right, that's what it seemed like. It ended up being okay, but I was not a fan. I was not totally convinced. Double Reaper opener from Innovation is going to be interesting against this opener of Stats. He's going into a 3-Rex after this, too. Oh, he doesn't lift. Oh, he doesn't lift. Oh, it's being scouted. No. Okay, that was... I mean, not only is there an Adept in the main now, but it's going to scout the 3-Rocks, which was really supposed to be a surprise. Well, I suppose it was going to be scouted regardless with the Oracle swooping in, but you know what also is being scouted? The lack of Marines, the lack of Wood Mine potential. This Oracle could be absolutely devastating. The Reapers are going to tango with the Adepts, which is why I thought this was going to be interesting, was I was like, well, how's the Reaper Adept thing going to go? Because the Reapers kill the Adepts and then initiate an immediate counterattack. The Oracle actually taking that counterattack very seriously, pops its... Wait, no, what's it called? You know what? I've totally forgotten. Not Prismatic Alignment, though. Pulsar Beam, that's what it's called. It pops its Pulsar Beam to kill the Reapers, which does give time for innovation for his Marines to pop out. And you only need 4 Marines to tango with an Oracle nowadays. So, I mean, okay, those 2 openers felt like anything is slightly different, and either one of them could have snowballed, you know? But it ends up being kind of an even game. Adept and Oracle, though, can be a nasty tag team. Not enough Adepts to really help out. A couple of Marines pop out in the main base. Oracle is going to tango, as I said, with 4, but it was actually mismicroed. Marines got a lot of shots in before the Oracle was able to return the shot, and this game continues to be a lot about whether Marines are in place or not. Are they in place? Their numbers are not big enough, but are they in place? Turns out they are. He also started up an engineering base where he's working on that +1. Stim Combat Shield's +1. His 3 racks might have been scouted. It was inevitable with the Stargate opener, I suppose, but might have been scouted. It could still be powerful because stats did not final out success, I would say, in the openers. I mean, he did trade with the Reapers, but is that really what he wanted to do? I think his Oracles wanted to swoop in and get like 12 SCVs. Instead, they got 1 SCV. So resources lost, okay, technically in favor of stats, but the Oracles, they're not as useful the longer the game goes. Not as much as the Marines will be once they have upgrades, especially if the Oracle dies. Adepts, where did you go, Cotton Eye Joe? Oh, they shit it back. Stim's about to finish, so you have to be very careful. Stats grabs a 3rd Nexus, which is going to finish. Shield Battery is here. Handful of units. Really not a whole lot. Blink only halfway done. If Innovation is going to go for the actual 3 racks push, so whenever the upgrade is done, he could do some serious damage. So this is the first push. Ideally a surprise, but certainly not in this game. And then the next push comes with the starport, and that's the decision right now that Innovation's gonna have to make. Does he actually push into this, or does he wait for the medevacs? And I think waiting for the medevacs is gonna be the best call. That shield battery, a little too protected. The threat of an overcharge, a little too real. There's just enough army units to really push Innovation back and make him not do the first push anyways. But it's still, his army is still pretty good. 3rd CC should be going down on location soon as well. A couple of units are going to just kind of try and sneak by and get into that natural, which I quite like. All it really takes is about 4 or 5 Marines to be able to devastate a probe line. Stalker is getting overzealous. They have Blink. They wanted to showcase their micro, but they are up against a lot of bio with combat shields and +1 weapons, so Innovation doesn't want to stim at that point. But he doesn't have to have a decent battle. There's the Marines in the natural. Just enough to get a distraction. Immortal pops out, but actually losing the shields on an Immortal could be kind of dangerous. Guardian Shield activated, Overcharge activated on the shield battery as well. Just before medevacs were actually out, Innovation thought he saw an opportunity. I mean, it was an okay one, I think. Cost him a stim, but not much more. He managed to get maybe 6 probes there. It looks like the gas geysers were depleted. Oracle Revelation shows an army that is still not being healed up by medevacs. Innovation's going to take advantage of the choke. Push that back. Medevacs, I swear, were on their way out. Oh my god, they still are coming out. Could have sworn I saw one on the production tab, but it took a long time. 3rd CC will still finish, though. Innovation doesn't overcommit. Stats doesn't overcommit either. Look tempting probably to chase that bio ball down with Stalkers, but you really got to be careful. Oh, Marauder down. Medevacs are finally here. Scan just went down on something. 3rd base, it looks like. I mean, sees how big the army is, sees how saturated the base is. In this case, doesn't see 2 gases. It's not the strongest tech up here. And with the amount of charge lots he saw, I mean, it's not... It doesn't take a genius to expect charge lots, but... They're going to be Colossus on the way, very soon, in fact. Colossus #1 already started up, but there are a lot of charge lots that he has to worry about first, and with the build opener that he chose, he doesn't exactly have a lot of Wood Mines to work with, only just finishing the reactor on the factory. So charge lots, something he has to take very seriously. Still hasn't taken out the Stargate, but I don't think he cares about it that much. Ooh, Oracle goes down. No more Revelations. And the Stargate finally falls as well. Invasion gonna bother to take out the pylon too, because, you know, why not? Scan again on that third Nexus, seeing what's available. It's a couple of Immortals and a whole heck of a lot of charge lots, but no Colossus out quite yet. I think it just popped. It did indeed. 1-1 against just one. Innovation with the upgrade lead is looking for an attack, but he's got to go up ramps against even one or two force fields. Can be very, very deadly. He's going to go for a big drop into the main stats, a little bit on top of this. No, actually not quite. Well, the unload was very decently timed, and then he reloads up. Because why not? He really wants to get into that main base, but there's too many stalkers. It wouldn't be worth it with the rest of the army so close as well, right? If it was just the stalkers and the army was over at the third, maybe, but not with everything so closely together. Now a second Colossus is out. More charge lots being added in. Extended thermal lance almost done. He's gonna try and go for it. No force fields available. Guardian shield's activated. Only a single force field to try and stop the onslaught of the bio. As he pulls back into the natural, trying to get into more of a choky situation. Innovation still has so many Marauders, so much bio left over. Widowmine still has to pop off as well. He's gonna micro back onto that ramp, and I think he's gonna have to run away. There are too many units left over for stats. Not enough Widowmine to take care of these charge lots. Stalker number is actually surprisingly threatening. Innovation being pushed back all the way to his third. He's trying to get to Ghosts. He's trying to get to Vikings. Might have overinvested into that attack. Even a couple of Marauders, well, barely surviving. I don't know how, but they did. Everything counts. He's on his last life here. It's the last game. He doesn't want to go down to the lower bracket. He wants to go to sleep. But Stats' engagement was a little too good. He's also finishing up his +1 armor as he engages. So that was without an upgrade lead, or he was at a disadvantage straight up. And now with even upgrades, it should go a lot better for our Protoss. A couple of EMPs could change the tides of battle. The SCV pool might be pretty damn good. Vikings also actually getting on top of the Colossus this time around, but the EMPs, are they going to be good enough? Vikings are taking down one Colossus. They might get a second one, but the Warp Prism still lives. And with the Warp Prism, that might be enough reinforcements and the micro on top of that. The SCV count has been killed, the bio has been killed, and Stats will take game 5. It was a close one.